one, the only Ash Said It. AshSaidIt.com. AshSaidIt.com. Welcome to the Ash Said It Daily Podcast Show. I appreciate you guys for all of your love and support. Over 1,500, nearly 1,600 episodes, and 500,000 streams worldwide. None of this would be possible without you guys, so I thank you so very much. And yes, we're still dealing with a bit of a pandemic life. We are, but we're still finding really awesome ways to, keep our souls fed and keep our tummies fed too. So today we are talking with the founder and CEO of Concentric Restaurants, which owns one of my favorite brands of all time throughout the Metro Atlanta area, Two Urban Licks, the wonderful Bob Amick. Hey, Bob.
Hey, how are you? I'm actually in my office in my house in Ansley Park in Midtown. So is where I am now, and getting ready to head over to Two Urban Licks shortly.
All right, cool beans. Yes, and we're jumping into that origin story behind Two Urban Licks. How did it come to be?
Well, we had, I started Concentric Restaurants back in 2002 when we opened One Midtown Kitchen in Midtown. It's the third restaurant company I've owned in Atlanta. I've been opening restaurants in Atlanta I opened my first restaurant in Atlanta in 1974, but I've been in the restaurant business in Atlanta since 1968, a long time. This was the third company I've been involved with in my restaurant career in Atlanta. And I've been traveling all over the United States doing things and opening restaurants, and we had a brand that we expanded nationwide called Cousin Restaurants and Mixed Restaurants that started back in the 70s. And I just always had wanted to do a New York style, in the village, back quiet place restaurant in Atlanta, and I had an opportunity to do that first and foremost at One Midtown Kitchen. And then I got this phone call from somebody that said, "Hey, I got this piece of real estate that you just got to see. That great warehouse, and it was a friend that I knew, Jim Cumming, and went to see this thing and looked at it, and that was an abandoned warehouse at the time. It had some storage going on, and there was a custom TNT was TBS were building sports programming trailers in the other part of the building, and didn't think much of it other than it was this large building until I got the backside of it. Walked out, and what's today is the Beltline was a sort of abandoned railroad tracks, and with incredible views of downtown Atlanta, and just fell in love with the space and the look and the feel, and I'd always wanted to do a large warehouse type concept. All those abandoned railroad tracks, and to that location when I was looking at it, and you have to carry a stick to walk back there because it wasn't the safest place to be at the time. Coming in the back way, realized how close it was to my home in Midtown, and just fell in love with the space. And everybody thought I was nuts. You're going to put a restaurant in an abandoned warehouse, in the middle of nowhere. Nobody's going to come, let alone do something that's 12,000 square feet. It's as big as that was, and it was an interesting journey. But I looked at it initially in 2003, signed the deal, and we opened in 2004. German Licks, and the dinner-only concept. Wanted to do wood roasted meats and fish, something casual, something hearty, something big city, and you've been there. You've certainly seen the current wood configuration between wood ovens, wood grill, wood rotisseries in terms of what we did there.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been a couple of times just for like birthday parties or just because. Just because. I'd say that the black and salmon is my favorite. I love the black and salmon there. But what is the name? Two Urban.
Well, it's a funky name, but I've done somehow I got hooked on these numbers when I opened One Midtown Kitchen, and the one really came from I had two big companies, and all of a sudden I was starting a restaurant, and so I only had one. So literally that's where the numbers started coming from, and two was obviously the next step, and Urban Licks, it was really meant, we got a lot of feedback on why the tagline, but Urban Licks meant two things. It was food you wanted to lick your fingers with after you ate, because it was messy and we were doing wood roasting. And also licks from a standpoint of music. We have live music in there 6 nights a week. And so, and urban because it was, in town and funky and very different than anything in Atlanta at the time.
Yes. What can you tell us about your executive chef?
Well, Matt is we've been very, very fortunate in terms of culinary talent there, and we haven't had. I think we've had 5 chefs in 18, 19 years of being in business, and Matt Whiteside was actually had worked with us in some of our other restaurants, and had been working in 2 recently, and we lost our executive chef. Actually got recruited away. In fact, I talked to him on the phone today, Michael Bertozzi, who was living in Colorado and got recruited by Elon Musk's brother to head up the culinary team of a restaurant company that they were building out in the West. And so Matt had been working for us on and off for the last 5 or 6 years in another restaurant, and it seemed to work and meld, and Matt's done a great job. It's not something like you're reinventing the wheel every time. We have a niche. We know what we want to be and what we want to do. We just want to do it really well.
To hear about you've only changed chefs only a couple of times, you hear about all these other stories of different restaurants that are, every week it's a new chef, seems like. So
yeah, we're lucky that there's a lot of reasons why you keep good people, putting them in the right environment that they want to be in, having the right concept, because people cook differently, and finding that right niche. Two is it's hearty cooking. It's not it's finesse, but it's finesse. The portions are large. We give a lot of food for the money, and so it's finding somebody that wants to play in that realm, and Matt does a terrific job of that.
Absolutely. So with COVID just changing our lives forever, Bob, how have you guys put some precautions in place for our guests?
Well, it was really a rough ride and a rough scare. From I'll take you back a little bit in terms of late February, early March of last year. I remember sitting in a meeting the first week in March and 2 on a Saturday talking about COVID and what was going to happen in the restaurant business, and we sort of came up with this plan of 1, 2, or 3 in terms of where we thought we were going to be. And we picked plan 3, and by Tuesday, 3 days later, we were in plan 1, which was closed. And so we closed for about 3 months. We furloughed 100% of our company, and we did all that for them. So we put them on, filed everything for them. And we just sort of watched the trends and watched what we could do or not do. I think that we're really fortunate that we have a very large park patio outside, and we have a very big restaurant. And so when it looked like it was okay to try to open, what restaurants faced was, what kind of space do you have, and if you open under the current guidelines, how busy can you be or not be? And part of that has to do with the space you have. The other part of it has to do with the confidence of your customer base trusting you for us to reopen what we did. So we closed down 100%. We bought this filtration system that it's a manual thing that we do, that we go through the restaurant on a nightly basis and spray. When we decided to reopen, we test 100% of our employees every week on site. And between that, the social distancing, cutting our seating and pulling tables and chairs out, putting plexiglass between all of our booths and tables so we could, get to a 50% capacity, because the challenge of COVID in restaurant businesses is if you're small and you're cut by 50%, you don't have outdoor dining, at some point in time it's not worth opening. And we chose not to, when we closed, not to do to-go business, because we felt that was not going to solve the problem. We had 125 employees, and opening, and employing 7 or 8 people to do to-go business on a nightly basis just make sense for us. So our challenge was to prepare for when we could open, to open properly, and to communicate that level of safety from a temperature check. We moved our host desk outside, so you couldn't even get into the restaurant without having a reservation, without having being checked. We side, and we started, really, really, when we opened very cautiously, but we grew our business back. That if we were doing the volume today that we were doing, if we multiplied the volume we're doing today on a 12-month cycle, we'd be down about 30% over what we would have been year over year before. But given the fact we closed for 3 months, obviously it's even worse than that. If you took and compared this year to last year, being closed for 3 months, so we lost the whole quarter of sales. And then when we brought people back, it was tough. We brought people back. We guaranteed certain salaries for the first couple months to make sure that they earned enough money, because we didn't have the public was going to respond to us opening back up. And so we've been on this very cautious, very steady, scale. We don't do printed menus. The mask things obviously are really important. And how you flow through the restaurant in terms of so that you're not walking back and forth by people. We tried to do everything we possibly could, and it's been good. We've had very little issues, and we certainly have had a couple people here and there test positive over the 6 months that we've been on this cycle. But by testing every week, it's really worked out well, and I think people have gotten confident with us and what we do, and it is we're not doing the business we were, but we're probably one of the busier restaurants in Atlanta, in spite of COVID. A, because of what we did in confidence level, and B, the fact that we have a very large restaurant and a lot of outdoor dining, which are two pluses to being successful during this crisis that we're in.
Okay, absolutely. So, Bob, I'll say that some Atlantans are very notorious for not visiting local businesses that are in and around the city. What do you say to those Atlantans out there that have I don't know where they've been sleeping, under a rock somewhere, but they've never been to Two Urban Licks?
No, cities are regional, right? And there are people who live in Buckhead that never venture out of Buckhead. And I will tell you that from Two Urban Licks standpoint, we've been busy almost from the day we opened. I think it took 3 days from the time we opened our business back in 2004. We've grown every year since we opened. Obviously, this year will be a drop, but we get people from all over the city. We get a huge amount of, when there are tourists and things going on gaming wise, and people coming from out of town. We're on everybody's list of, if you have one night for dinner in Atlanta, Two Urban Licks is a place you ought to go try. And we've got a countless number of regular customers that, but it amazes me when I bump into people, or I'm out and about, and somebody goes, "Oh, you go see you in the restaurant," because it's, "What do you want?" And I go, "Two Urban Licks," and they go, "What's that?" So even being one of the busiest restaurants in Atlanta, it's just a big town, and people have different eating habits. We're fortunate that we've got a large base, and they've supported us well. And the city of Atlanta is a good food town. There's lots of places to eat, and it's what makes the town good, which is having those opportunities to go try different things, whether it's out on Buford Highway or Buckhead, or in some strange location in Midtown that you never think you'd find a restaurant.
Certainly. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you beyond words. And
we appreciate you having me on, and we thank Atlanta for all the years of support they've had. And we're running, we're open 7 nights a week, and we're open for brunch on Saturdays and Sundays, and you're safe, and we do a great job. Our staff does a great job, and we encourage you to come out and see us.
Yeah, Bob, also, what's the best way for people to make reservations?
Basically, the best way to do it is to go online.
Okay.
And just do it online. You can go in on our website and do it. Or go on Open Table. You can go directly to Open Table and do it. We're the busiest Open Table restaurant in Atlanta.
I believe it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure that you'll be back when we can talk about one of your other amazing brands.
Thanks so much for having me on, and come see us and ask for me.
Absolutely. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for your love and support. Keeping in mind, anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, you look them square in the face, you tell them, don't believe me. Just watch. Watch what I do. Watch me make it happen. Watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for, the history books. Social media is nice, but real life is so much better. Until next time, you guys.